Today, by popular demand, I'm going to do a dog Spratley, one of the many variants of dog Spratleys out there. This is a very popular fly for fishing for trout in lakes. And it comes in many variations, but all of them share a very common frame or structure, if you will, which consists of some feathers from a pheasant typically, or some other soft fiber for a tail, a wing, and a throat on the fly. A body of wool or dubbing that's reasonably fuzzy, and a rib of either gold or silver tinsel. So I'm going to tie this. This is a size 10 2x long hook, so like a 9671 Mustad type hook. I'm just going to use black thread, in this case a 6/0 thread. Actually, no, this is a 3/0 Danville monocorded, a little bit thicker. I can get away with that because this does not involve a tremendous amount of materials, and so I'm not going to end up with a lot of thread buildup. Just start the thread at the head of the fly and then move it to the bend of the hook. Now I'm going to pick something for the tails, and I was talking to Dave earlier about the relative merits of using either pheasant tail or pheasant rump, and my personal preference would be to go for the pheasant rump because it's a lot softer than the pheasant tails. Pheasant tails tend to be a little bit stiffer, but if you like that sort of stiffer feel or color of the pheasant tail, which is going to give you more of a reddish feather, the rump tends to be more of a blue, gray, green. You can actually pick through different patches of pheasant rump and choose different colors in natural pheasant rather than having it dyed. The other option is to go to golden pheasant if you have it, or other parts of a standard ringneck pheasant. So these feathers, they also have very nice soft fibers on them. So the choice is pretty endless. The other ones are grizzly hackles, dyed Guinea fowl feathers, the soft ones, not the stiff wing feathers in that case either. So, okay, enough talking. I just need to pick something, and I'm going to, as I said, I'm just going to go with the rump, pheasant rump. So I'm just going to pick a feather off the patch here. And I don't want the fluff. I'm just going to clean that off. And get a few fibers. If you want more, you can get from both sides of the feather. So, get like this. And like this. Pinching them together like this will give you reasonably even tips. Again, measure against the hook shank. I like to do about 3/4 of the hook shank length and secure this with a couple of thread turns and then clip. Not all of it, just give a little bit here so that it's going to allow properly securing this to the hook later on. Then the next item you want to tie on is a little bit of flash for the ribbing. And this time I'm just using I'm experimenting with some dollar store material. And this is a little bit crinkly. It's not the expensive fly shop tinsel. There's nothing against that. I'm just trying to see what else can you get away with and still have it work reasonably well. As you can see, one of them slipped. I was trying to put, because this is a relatively large fly, I wanted, this is very fine tinsel, so I just wanted 2 strands of the stuff. I'll show you where it comes from in a moment. Okay. Oh, I got a spool of Santa's Secrets, which is a bunch of tinsel wrapped around an elastic. And the only challenge here is to take that elastic core out and get at the tinsel, which is otherwise pretty good and strong. So I like this material, other than this little bit of extra processing that needs to happen. Okay, now for the body, what I'm going to use, 2 of the favorite colors for the, actually there are 3 main colors for this fly. One is what I call the official black, which seems to be the original color for this pattern. And then a lot of people like to tie these with green or red bodies. So what I'm going to use now for a body is a piece of wool. There's just some leftover wool that I've been collecting over time, and you can use whatever you happen to have. And if you don't have it, then you can also look in your selection of dubbing materials and pick something nice and fuzzy that will give you a nice dub body. And then just secure all of this to the hook and wrap your thread forward over all those little bits of material that are left dangling there. That's why you want to kind of trim them nicely so that when you wrap the thread over, they'll go under well. Okay, now I want to separate these. It's just a little tangly. Okay, so put it to the side. There you go. Sometimes your vise may have some kind of a material clip or some other ability to attach these various materials while you're doing something else. And that's what I did here. And then just wrap that wool forward. This is a nice kind of mottled green with other colors mixed in it. That's why I picked it. I don't know if this was originally some sock wool or something like that. If you have a knitter in the family, go and ask for leftovers that are no longer usable for anything else. You might be pleasantly surprised at some nice materials you're getting. Okay, and now for the ribbing. So this is fairly standard construction, right? So you tie in the body, whatever material you chose, and then you wrap the rib forward. I've seen one recipe specifying very clearly 5 turns of tinsel. You know, whatever strikes your fancy. Not too many, not too few. A happy middle. It may be 5, it may be less, it may be more. And make sure that you leave enough room at the head of the fly so you can put the wing and the throat, right? So at least have 1 to 1.5 eye lengths behind the eye of the hook. And the first thing that's going to go on here is going to be the throat. For that, I turn the fly upside down and I go back to my rump feather.
There's 11 people watching it,
including you.
I may decide that this is nice wing material, so I'm going to go to a shorter feather. I have some bits here. So for the throat, you don't want something too long. And the only thing is, sometimes in order to keep the tips aligned, just grab the feather, stroke these tips so they're all nicely in line, then transfer to the other hand, and then take your scissors and cut. Okay. Once you've done that, you can roll these between your fingers a little bit so that you end up with, you know, if you have unruly fibers, at least they'll be unruly in all directions rather than only one. And then measure this so it reaches to the hook point and not much beyond that. Okay, so transfer to the other hand. So I may have to do it between my fingers to get it right. So just a classic pinch wrap. You can just do one wrap and then look, make sure that what you got looks fine. You can, if you only did one wrap, you can always adjust this a little bit. You can pull back on the fibers, you know, you can tinker with it. And when you're happy, just take the thread and secure this down properly. And don't let go until you're done with all your ropes. Okay. So now we have a nice throat here. And we can trim the extra. All right, now flip it over. Time for wing. And back to the longer fibers. I want a wing that's not, if I only take this little bit of fibers, it's going to be a little sparse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this clump of fibers, and then I'm going to grab a similar clump from the other side of the feather. This is a fairly symmetric feather, so it's going to work pretty well. And again, roll these up a little bit. And let's see now that I've got enough length. But there's a little bit of a curvature to the feathers. You can always, oops, I was a little over enthusiastic here. Let's lost a few fibers. Let me get them back. Okay. I'm trying to find what's kind of the natural curvature of these fibers to work a little bit with that rather than against it. So I'm going to put it to about, so the tips of the wing to line up with the halfway point on the tail, which is going to be around here. Okay, so again, put this down. 1, 2 wraps to secure it initially. Okay, this looks like it's symmetric. If you're happy with where it is, just go and wrap over it a little bit while holding it down properly so it doesn't roll on you.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And then I need to turn this around so I can see the eye of the hook properly. Trim.
Looks like he's tying a duck, Spratley or something like that.
Okay. So then for finishing off the fly, I'm going to untwist my thread. This usually gives me a cleaner head. So start wrapping properly here behind the eye of the hook, and then cover any little stubs left from cutting.
Boy.
And 2 whip finishes, and that will be that. Go. 1. And that second whip finish. There's no need to varnish this. If you like varnishing your heads of flies, you can certainly do that. But that's the fly, and all you have to do to tie the other ones is to vary the materials. And you get different effects, different things. And that's the dog Spratley in
Florin,
one of its many incarnations. Yes, Dennis.
do you ever use Peacock herl for the finishing off the head?
I do that too. So
What's that do?
Peacock turn.
Okay. Let's complete the fly with a bit of peacock herl. I didn't leave myself too much room to do that, but I think we can swing it. Some recipes call for ostrich herl, black ostrich herl. Probably have some somewhere, but peacock is definitely a very nice material. So what you would do, so before finishing off the head, take a strand of peacock herl and oops. Okay. I get to demonstrate what you do when things go haywire as well. So you don't panic. Go back. That means I didn't cut enough from the tip of the herl. Cut another piece to get into the more solid portion of it. And the thing with peacock herl is relatively fragile. And if you have full peacock eyes, these are pretty good and strong feathers typically. You get much better stuff working with a full peacock eye than from just strong peacock herl. So for this application, because normally, and this is a bit of a digression here, but with peacock herl, normally if I were to do the body with peacock herl, which is by the way another option for this fly, I would put it in a dubbing loop, so it would be reinforced with thread and it would be virtually indestructible. For a head on a fly, you don't want to do that because it crushes a little bit the fibers of the herl. So there you want to wind the peacock herl with no other interfering things like thread to get the full effect. And so here we go. Few turns of this will give you that peacocky effect. There we go. Whoops. And secure. Couple of turns, and then you also do a couple of turns or more in front of where you secured the peacock herl originally. This gives you a much more secure lock onto the peacock herl. And then rather than trying to cut this, just snap it off. See, now I'm in the strong portion of it, so it doesn't break off that easily. Again, untwist the thread a little bit. Couple of whip finishes. Now we have a much better fly. There you go. So this is a more complete version of it. That's that. You can tie them bigger, you can tie them smaller. I have to confess, I haven't fished the dog Spratley much. I have other lake patterns that tend to be on my favorites list. But after all this conversation and after doing the research for tying the flies today, I've got myself a little set of dog Spratleys in different colors and feather combinations, and so they're gonna get in the water next time I go out. All right.
What are the recommended colors?
Recommended colors, from what I've read, so this is not from extensive personal experience because I don't have that, but from what I've read, it's black, red, and green are the three main colors for this fly.
Green
But
being olive, yes, I assume.
Olive green. I would, because peacock herl is a magic material, I would not hesitate to do a full peacock body. What I would do in that case, and I'm just going to quickly show you what my recommended approach to doing peacock bodies would be. It's worked for me for years on all manner of flies that call for peacock herl on the body. And so what I do looks like this. I grab, so, you know, imagine you're at the point of having to tie on the herl. Okay. And I don't have any, I'm looking for the ratty, not so good peacock herl. Okay. It's probably at the bottom of some packing box somewhere. I'll find it some other time. But for now, let me just take a couple of fibers from. I only have really nice stuff here. Oh, here. This is some not so good. So this is a feather of which I picked a lot of the good stuff, and I'm left with some marginal peacock herl. Although this is good for really small flies because it's fine. What else? I have rat here. Maybe this. Okay, this is distinctly ratty. Okay, so let's say you have some not so brilliant peacock herl. These are very long as well. Just trim off the tops. You can see this one has already got a kink here, and it's going to break off at the first opportunity. So just cut all of that off. Then tie it onto the hook like that. Then pull your thread alongside the peacock fibers, 1, 2, 3, however many you need, okay? And you can use thread, or you can use some kind of flash. So if you want to give your peacock herl even more flash, you can use, instead of thread at this step, you can use a strand of crystal flash. Maybe I'll do that kind of trick some other time. So pull this together, and then get your hackle pliers of the rotating variety. This is a pair of Griffins with a little bit of silicone tubing at the top to give them better grip. And grab all of these things, the peacock herl and the thread, together and form a dubbing loop like this. And then close the dubbing loop, so just a few wraps of thread, and move your thread forward. And now you've got a dubbing loop and a lot of extra peacock herl here, which I'm going to trim because it's just going to get in the way. Okay, so now all you do is you take this and you spin it, right? So now remember, if you turn, if you're looking from above the hook, if you're right-handed, for left-handed people, you just have to turn all of this around. But if you're right-handed and you wrap kind of the standard way, so to speak, if you're looking from above the hook, if you're spinning your thread or whatever material counterclockwise, you're untwisting it. If you're spinning it clockwise, you're twisting it. So what I want here is I want this to stay twisted when I wrap it on. So I'm going to turn this dubbing loop clockwise as viewed from above, like this, until I get a nice little tight dubbing rope. And then I can start winding this on the hook like this. And then if this unwraps a little, untwists a little bit as I do this, I can always tighten it up a little bit more. You don't want to put all the twist in it from the very beginning, because the portion of the dubbing loop that's closer to the hackle pliers is not going to be as twisted as the one closer to the hook. So you kind of have to twist this a little bit gradually. So with this method, you've got yourself 2 strands of peacock herl and 2 strands of tying thread tightly twisted together in a combination that's pretty much indestructible under normal fishing conditions. And then when you're done, you just cut this off and you've got your peacock herl body. Okay, you can do this on dry flies, you can do it on streamers, nymphs, whatever. And then you can also insert other materials like I said, crystal flash, either pearl. In fact, for this type of application, I like to use a bit of silver flash because that gives a little silver core to the peacock herl. So it's like having like a silver core chenille made with peacock herl. Okay, that's kind of a long-winded answer to Tony's question, I guess.
Thank you, Florin.
Any other questions before I pass the tying on to Dick?
Just a side note, the red body on the Spratley, if you've got a pond with brook trout in them, the red body Spratley works really well in ponds with brook trout. They seem to, for some reason, like that red.
Dick, do you have a sample of the red?
I have a sampled fly.
I
type
don't
red.
right offhand, but yeah, okay.
I can take one, put it here in the vise.
Interestingly enough, I think there's only one lake near Victoria that holds brookies, and that's Spectacle. I think one of our members caught a brookie there last year or earlier this year.
Yep, I got one up there actually. It was a shock.
It was you, Mohammed, right?
It's Tim.
What I use for the body sometimes be floss, either black, red, or green. And I used stock Spratley's for years on Elk Lake. But recently, it just won't take a stock Spratley. I don't know why. It just changed.
It's a nice looking fly, Florin.
Cool. So
Done
that's, I've tried, this one is tied with red wool. I don't think on this batch I tied any with dubbing. But that's the other, depends what you want, a fuzzy. If you want a fuzzy body, you go to wool or seal fur dubbing. If you want a nice smooth body, more of a minnow kind of tie, then you would do a floss body. There you have to be really careful that you have a smooth underbody, that you lay down your floss as smoothly as possible, because otherwise when you do the tinsel ribbing, it's gonna slip and slide and not be very nice. The advantage of these fuzzier bodies is that the tinsel kind of digs in to the wool a little bit, and it's, you don't have to worry about these things. So the floss.
You also mentioned you could use gold or silver for the ribbing. I've always found that the silver works best for me.
Yeah, I think the original pattern was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was gold. And Dick's fly from last week or 2 weeks ago was basically just a combination of gold and pheasant.
Yeah, gold body.
So
Gold body works really well too.
So it's a matter of experimenting with various things and maybe find what the fish in Elk Lake have switched to lately. Okay. Dick, you are
eyes are coming.
you are on.
Yeah. Have to.
Florin, can you highlight him?
Just a minute. I'm
He's gonna share. He's got the same
I'll
setup
share.
as I
I'll
do.
share the screen here.
and he'll share the document camera, so you'll see very well what he's doing.
Okay. Okay, so if that's in focus, or if you can see behind there, this thing is something that was developed just on the bench, just for fishing for walleye and pike, basically, but I would not be afraid to fish it for trout. And with the colors being a silver body and this chartreuse overwing and the white belly, I would not be afraid to run that on a line behind the boat for coho. I know fishing for coho, we were using chartreuse and silver spoons. And so I don't see why a fly like this wouldn't work. No experience with this fly in that circumstance, but it should work. So what I'm using is how's the focus, by the way? You guys can see this okay? All right. I'm using a Mustad 36-890 salmon fly hook, but you could use any salmon fly hook. This happens to be a size 6. And I would go down to size 2 even, would not be a problem. So I'm using a UTC 140, a heavier thread. And what I'm doing is I acquired a dyed bucktail. And you can see the chartreuse and also this body color. So the tail is going to be that body color. And I'll start there. Ah. Now you could hair stack those, but I wouldn't be too concerned. And I'm using a tail that's about the length of the hook shank. Just give it a pinch. And snug it down. An under wrap, another under wrap. We'll get rid of that. And I am using just silver tinsel for the body. I'm actually going to use some of Florin's dollar store tinsel today. Just to change it up a little. And I'm just going to wrap that, keeping the wraps tight. And now we're going to do an underbody, which is polar bear. So the polar bear can go right to the back of the tail here, because it's not a beard, it's an underbody. So we'll tie that guy in. And now,
Dick, could you
Yeah.
turn off could you turn off your focus button?
oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, good. That's
Sorry.
better.
Oh, hi, Michael.
Hey,
Forgot about that. Okay, and the overwing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to keep that wing ending at the tail here. Cinch down on that pretty well. Now, this is a great walleye fly. I fish it on a type 3 sinking line. I just cast it out and let it get down to the bottom, and then just strip retrieve it back slowly. And they seem to really like that. There's no weight on the fly. You could weight the fly if you wanted to. Well, I better use the whip finisher. Depending on the circumstance and where you're going to fish it and what the size of the fly is and the depth of the water, you know, certainly wouldn't hurt to put a little weighted material on it. If it wasn't a salmon fly hook and just a regular style of streamer hook, you could probably put a bead head on it. And there you have it, the Ripper.
Very nice, Dick. Thank you.
Yes.
Chartreuse is a really good color. Even if I've tied different type flies from this one, but it's like if I use red, I catch pike. If I use chartreuse, I catch walleye.
Correct.
So the color choice is clearly important.
Yeah. As a trout fly, I would not be scared to fish this for trout. I would cast this into into the shallows when the big fish are prowling. A lot of times when we're on the lake, the big fish will be cruising along the shoreline, along the reeds or tight to the bank. You'll see them 2 feet out from the bank, and you'll see the bulge coming, and they're chasing minnows. And I would not be afraid to cast that in and strip it back.
But surely a smaller size, no?
No, I would use this size. I wouldn't be afraid to use this size on trout at all. I haven't tried it on trout. I'm going to try it this summer.
Well,
It's
you're
been-
known to catch big trout, so I guess
Yeah, it's been more of a walleye kind of thing, but it does work. It'll pick up walleye and pike. So in that scenario, but I'm sure it would work for coho dragged in behind a boat somehow. And I'm not sure if you could use it in a river setting for you guys. Maybe with some dumbbell eyes on it or something. I don't know. What do you think, Florin?
I'm not the expert here. We've got a few hundred years of expertise in this meeting right now, so maybe somebody else would answer that. I would put dumbbell eyes on this and give it a try. And maybe if I were to do that, then I would flip the colors around so that they're in the right places.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have to do that. Yeah. But like you say, variations, here you can get various colored bucktails, and I wouldn't be afraid to try it in other colors for sure. Questions?
That was a really good fly, Jake. Thank you.
No problem. You're quite welcome.
And yeah, I would agree. I think that that would work in quite a few scenarios, and for different species as well.
Yeah.
Dick, is there any chance that you would be able to share / retie your I don't even know what it's called, the really buggy one that you did last week?
Oh,
Or
sure.
you-
That's no problem. Yeah. Yeah, I could do that.
You could knock one of those off so we have it on.
Yeah, I'll go back to the share screen here. And I'll just
Perfect.
I'll just see
Thanks.
if I can I'm sure I've got something here. It'll just take me a second.
I'm still recording this now. Maybe John is going to be able to edit it a little bit before posting.
Okay, I'm just gonna dig out a bead, an Arizona bead, and get it on this hook real quick. Or not. So the fly that I tied last week, the materials are an olive green or a mottled olive green chenille body, the tail is pheasant rump. The wing case is a mottled or olive green chenille, 2 strands for the tail. Okay, I'm having trouble with my beads. The glass beads that I have, they do not fit on all the hooks. And it's a trick to get them around the hook shank sometimes. So here we go. So I'm using an Arizona bead, which is this one happens to be white and orange. You can use a standard orange bead and dab some white eyes on it if you would like, with a white dabber of some kind. Okay. Here we go. Pheasant drum. It's a good thing I got everything fairly close. So pheasant rump for the tail. Kind of rolled, something like that. About the length of the hook shank, approximately. And because I have this thread handy, I'll just use it. This is a size 8 streamer hook is what it is. Size 8, size 10. You could use a shorter than a streamer, like a 9672 or something like that, but just happened to be what I grabbed here. So, okay. Pheasant rump is in. Green chenille is in. And I'll bring the thread up to about halfway up. And we'll do a wrap here. Okay, like so. And at this point, I tie in an extra piece of green chenille so that I've got 2 pieces there. And the next thing I do is tie in some facsimile of a pheasant church window or something like that. This happens to be this little guy here, not quite a church window, but it's what I seem to have, so that's what I'll use. And what I do is I just get that like so, and I tie that in by the tip. There's a lot of sort of steps to this fly, but it's really an easy tie. It just looks complicated, but it's not so complicated. The next thing is a piece of orange chenille. I'll tie that piece of orange chenille in like so. And wrap the orange chenille forward. Like so. I think I cheated myself out of a bit of thorax space, but that's okay. Now I'll just bring this feather palmered through that orange chenille, like that. Just kind of pull it backwards here a little bit. And tie that off like so. And then I bring my wing case over. With the wing case, I try to split the feathers on either side of the wing case. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And this is a bigger fly, so it's quite buggy looking. Problems. Problems everywhere. Ah. So that's sort of the general idea of it there. And basically, in a lot of the ponds, you'll get caddis that are case building caddis in the reeds or in the weeds, and they'll build themselves a little structure and live in it. And when they come out of that structure, peep their heads out, the head is usually kind of an orangey color, and then all of these other things are the legs coming out. And in the water, it sort of sweeps itself back after a while, like so, and goes through the water that way. And it's very, very effective. Cast and stripped back on a type 3 line or an intermediate clear sink line. It's effective trolled, and I've caught hundreds and hundreds of fish on it. And usually size 8, size 10, no smaller and no larger than that. And I used to tie it without a bead on it, with just a black tying head. And that worked originally. And then I added the beads at a later date, and the beads really made it effective. Now, like I say, with this Arizona bead, the white and the orange color work really well. Green and orange work really well. So does black and orange. And but I found that this white and orange works the best. So you could take an orange bead and dab some white cheeks on it, and you've got it. This happens to be a glass bead, but you could certainly use a metal bead of any kind. And the fly is called a dragus. I used to fish it, and a buddy said to me, he says, well, that sort of looks like a caddis, but it also looks like a dragonfly. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll call it a dragus. And the spelling D-R-A-G-U-S is a misspell, because I was posting it on our forum, and instead of I-S, I used U-S, and that's the name stuck for me. So we had a kind of a half dragon, half caddis imitation. But that's it in a nutshell.
That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate the retie.
Yeah, if you get a chance to tie something like this up and fish it, it might surprise you on your trout pond. It's worked all over the interior in BC to great success, and also all over the lakes I fish here.
Great. We'll give it a shot.
Excellent.
Thank you, Dick. That
No
was
problem.
Very nice. I will then stop the recording now and let the webmaster deal with the cleaning it up and posting it up.